All right, Shalom. I'm going to start off by giving all praises to the Heavenly Father in the name of His only begotten Son, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Harakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and salutations to you brothers to the four corners of the earth, preaching His word and also laboring in His word in truth, love, and sincerity. And may blessings fall upon the houses of the 1/3. In this quick lesson, I want to go over a few articles on dealing with black ice, which, if you don't know what that represents, it represents the black players, okay, so-called black players, which we know these are Israelites, who started hockey, okay, and as the articles, as they have here, you see they have African origins of the sport of hockey, but really, it's the Israelite origin of the sport of hockey, known as black ice, all right? So I just want to read a few articles and touch and hit a few scriptures on dealing with this, because with Babylon the Great, what the world does not know, that Jake, okay, the so-called Negro man, Latino man, Native American man, or the Israelite man, okay, which that's the true name of the Heavenly Father, which He have given us, because we are the Israelites. Whoever goes back to the seed, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we are the salt of the earth, okay, and even our women, all right? But we, as a nation, we are the salt of the earth. And a lot of these things that you see, a lot of these things that, these people of the other nations mimic, okay, it's all off of us. It's all behind us, okay, because we are the former of all things, And this right here is just one example to show you that, the lack of history being destroyed, and us being discredited, all right, of many, okay, innumerable inventions that we have created that have America, Babylon the Great, just in the whole world itself, standing behind the different inventions we made, all right? We are a very discredited people, okay? And usually it's Esau Edom, which is the so-called white man. That's his biblical name according to the Bible. He has taken our different inventions and made it as if it was own, right? He made it as if it was his own. So the world gives him all the credit, and they believe that he was the former of it, right? But it's really Jake. It's really the same. It's really the people that, who the world despises, who makes these things that everyone likes to partake like everyone likes to partake in. So I want to read a few articles real fast. It says, setting the ice hockey historical record straight. It says, and it reads, our knowledge of the roots of Canadian hockey has been based almost solely on historical records maintained by early white historians. Because of this, the misconception that hockey is a white man's invention has persisted. We know today such an assumption could not be further from historical fact. The roots of early Canadian hockey originate with the North American Indians. The root, you see, who? The Gadites. All right. The roots of modern Canadian hockey originate in large part from the influence of an even more surprising source, that of early African Canadian hockey, for it was black hockey players in the later half of the 19th century whose style of play and innovations helped shape the sport, effectively changing the game of hockey forever. And those is talking about, because we was all up in Canada, Israelites were scattered all across the world. So, you had Judah up in there, right, which you so-called Negroes, and more than likely a couple other different tribes. All right. It says the first black ice hockey players, 1820 to 1870. With certainly, we can only date black hockey to the early 1870s, yet we know that hockey and black history in Nova Scotia have parallel roots going back almost 100 years. Among the first reports of hockey being played occur in 1815 along the isolated Northwest Arm, south of Halifax. The date is important for the simple fact that as late as October 1815, the region was not home to a large white settlement, but was instead the site of a small black enclave. 4 black families, originally from the Chesapeake Bay Area, with a total of 15 children, had relocated and settled on the Orme, and it's reported that these families, Coney, Williams, Monroe, and Lyle, received adequate food lodging, and employment, implying that their children were healthy and would have been able to play hockey during the winter months with the Orme, when the Orme was frozen and suitable for skating. Were these children among the first Canadians to know to play the game of hockey? We do not know. All we can say that the coincidence between the date of the Northwest Orme's black settlement and the first records of hockey being played in the area are worthy of reflection. Okay, let's see. It says, during the Stanley Cup 1893, during the 19th century, it had been the English who had introduced the concept of competitive sports to much of the world in the age of the Victorians and Victorian ideals. Sports were regarded as models of teamwork and fair play. Many believed that the sports could raise the lower classes and non-white races to a higher level of civilization and social deployment. All was well. The theory held as long as white men continued to win at whatever sport they played. Hockey was no different. All right, let's continue on. I want to jump down. It says at the end, it says, a sport that now, by its very nature, would exclude and fail to recognize black contributions. All right. So the birth of all black hockey teams in 1895, it says the first recorded mention of all black hockey teams appears in 1895. Games between black club teams were arranged by formal invitation. By 1900, the Color Hockey League of the Maritimes had been created, headquartered in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Despite hardships and prejudice, the league would exist until the mid-1920s. Historically speaking, the Color Hockey League was like no other hockey or sports league before or since, primarily located in a province reputed to be the birthplace of Canadian hockey. The league would in time produce a quality of player and athlete that would rival the best of white Canada. Such was the skill of the teams that would be seen by as worthy candidates for local representation in the annual national quest for Canadian hockey's ultimate prize, the Stanley Cup. Okay, so this, going a little bit more, goes into the black hockey leadership. Then it goes on to the destruction of the Color Hockey League. Okay, and this is occurring in what, 1912. All right, and let's read it, because this is what Esau likes to do. Okay, Esau likes to see something. Esau sees things he likes, right? And all he wants to do is take it, right? And make it as if it's his own, and then he'll destroy your whole history behind it, and then portray it to the world as if he came up with the idea, or as he created it, and then it goes on for so long to now, as you have this misconception. And even when I was growing up, that hockey was a Edomite sport, which it wasn't, but that's the misconception that I was led to believe out of ignorance of not being taught, the truth about this sport. Okay. And that's why we call Esau Edom. He's the devil. He's the deceiver. He is the liar, man. Right? It says, were the blacks sending a message to area whites? Was this an eye for an eye, a payback for William's death and other past events? In order for 4 white-owned buildings to go up in flames almost simultaneously, it would require an orchestrated group effort. It would require a group of people working in tandem with one goal. If it were the work of blacks, it would have been an effort organized either on Gottingen Street or out of Africville. Indeed, this was payback. Then who better to accomplish this task than members of the Colored League? Men who had their league destroyed, land stolen, and business enterprises crushed at the hands of whites. On January 12, 1912, someone had sent to the white elite of Halifax a message. The message was simple: burn us, we burn you. And we know Esau, ultimately, he creates that order out of chaos type of situation too, because he'll set up certain, what he'll do is Esau will destroy a whole community or do some crazy madness, blame it on black folks, just so he can put forth that agenda to help destroy Jake, man. So he can get his little Edomite community rowdy enough, right? Point the finger and say, well, they did it, so let's go terrorize them, just to put forth his agenda, man. And hey, this is Esau Edom. Okay? So and matter of fact, I gotta think a little bit more. This goes into right. And this basically goes into the same thing, so I don't gotta read it. So let's get a scripture, because really this is just an article, backing up how, the misconception of hockey today. Okay? But listen to this. Jeremiah 10 verse 16. The portion of Jacob is not like them, for he is the former of all things. And Israel is the rod of his inheritance. The Lord of hosts is his name. So there's two things, right? So now, who is Jacob, right? Jacob is the progenitor of the Israelites, which are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and also all the scattered Israelites, okay, whose seed line go back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. No matter what language they speak, no matter what land they were born in, okay? They're an Israelite if you come from the seed of Jacob or the house of Jacob. And it says, for he is the form of all things, because everything you see, Jake has created, Jake has created. Whether we get the credit for it or not, hey, Jake created it, man. Okay? It says, and Israel is the rod of his inheritance, right? Jacob's name got later changed to Israel. Israel is the rod of his inheritance. The Lord of hosts is his name. And the Lord's people, the Lord's chosen people, because there's only one chosen people, are the Israelites. And guess what? We are the Lord's inheritance. Okay? The Israelites, we are the Lord's inheritance. You see? So that misconception is, the Lord is dealing with all people, right? The Lord, loves everybody. No, the scripture says what? Jacob have I, let's get it. Book of Romans 9, verse 13. What does it say? As it is written, Jacob have I loved. Who is Jacob? The Israelites. As it is written, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. And so the Lord hates you Edomites, man. And you Edomites are your so-called white people whose seed line go back to Esau, Edom. All right? Don't get it confused. We know skin color can be an indicator, slightly. And why do I make that statement? Because you have Israelites that look like all nations. We got Israelites that look like your so-called white people, right? But then we have people that may betray or take on the features of us. They may have dark skin. They may have a type of texture of woolly hair. But guess what? If their father is an Edomite, right? If their father's an Edomite, they're an Edomite. You see, so it's not based on what you look like, even though color can be a slight indicator, slightly, but it really goes off the seed. Okay? That's how your race is determined, by the seed of your father. All right, so that's why we say this is not a color thing. You could be a chocolate covered Edomite. And that's why. And then you see some Jakes out here. Why they be called white chocolate, right? Why they be called white chocolate? Because they outside of their skin, their appearance, they may look white, but in their spirit they got flavor, they got soul, they got soul. They usually can sing, dance, box, many different talents they'll have, and it just be in their spirit for the most case, you see. Because more likely they're an Israelite. But going back to the point, hey, we're the salt of the earth. Okay? All these different things you see, the people be doing, look, right? That people be doing is all to mimic the Israelites. Okay? Of what we have originally started. And they try to come up and bring it up as if it's a new thing, but it's not. Because we already have done it. We're just discredited from it, and you put your name tag and stamp and face on it. But guess what? The Lord is revealing, look, everything you could think of, the Lord is revealing it, man. You see? So you devils have nowhere to hide, man. Matthew 5 verse 13, ye are the salt of the earth, but if the salt have lost its savor, wherewith shall it be salted? You see? So we are the salt of the earth. Okay? And if the soul have lost his savor, wherewith shall it be sold it? Okay? So we got that spirit, man. You see? We just it, you know? And more importantly, right? With the misconception of our holy Bible, right? You see that said our, because this book belongs to the Israelites. Okay? It was law, statutes, and commandments for the Israelites. Okay? It's a story about the Israelites. And I'm speaking as in a broad aspect as in a whole, because it's also a history book. It's a book of prophecy, you know, but it's the book for the Israelites. And the misconception have been put out there, right? And I'm talking about the main misconception, you know, what I wanted to speak on is that, you know, the Bible belongs to the so-called white man, which that is far from the truth. Okay? So even though this black ice hockey is you know, on a, it's very low, you know, but it's still the fact that we created it. So we got to bring that out too. But on a major level, the Bible has been been a misconception of to be the white man's book, but it's the book of the Israelites. All right, it's the book of the Israelites. So, you know, I just wanted to touch on that real fast. Matter of fact, I do got a quick 4-minute documentary as this man goes into it as well, which actually sparked this lesson through the Spirit. Okay, so hey, Lord willing, I hope this lesson was edifying. Until next time, I want to say shalom, man. Oh, now I don't want to play, man. Esau something else. Esau something else. Oh, boy. Let's try one more time.
Thank you for watching Policy and Prejudice. My name is Chris Stevenson. I would like to go to the subject because getting to the root of black inventions, you know, people talk about Black History and Black History Month and all that, and that's all well and fine. But I think that to get to the root of black inventions, one has to determine what white people love the most. Currently, there are two things young white boys historically like very much, especially after World War II. This has been ongoing over the decades. That's rock and roll and the game of hockey. This story began in Nova Scotia, by way of New York and the Underground Railroad especially. But during slavery, you know, a lot of people don't know this. That's when the game of hockey was invented, and it started in Canada. When I was in high school, I marveled at stories about one lone hockey player that I would hear about every now and then, or an NHL, you know, playing for an NHL or minor league team. White boys in South Buffalo, they were rest assured that, you know, hockey was their sport. They were confident that hockey was their game. Now, little did I or they know that in the beginning, way before the NHL, hockey was blacker than basketball. So a lot of people don't realize it. And I wrote some things down about that because I think there are a lot of things that need to be revealed that have been deliberately hidden from us. We talk about one black hockey player or whatever, or even back in those days an all-black hockey team. How about a black hockey league or leagues, plural? That's what was going on. You know, you white kids, a lot of white kids out there, especially from Boston, who cursed and aimed racial slurs at P.K. Subban a few weeks ago, or Joel Ward 2 years ago, both of them coincidentally scoring the winning goals in playoff games against their beloved Boston Bruins. these same kids would be shocked to realize that there were all black hockey leagues in Canada, just a couple of 100 years ago. And they would be shocked to view photographs and stories of the first black hockey players. By the time of the 1890s, of course, this is hockey as you know it started, because that's when the bourgeois, Lord Stanley type people took over hockey. But before then, I would say the year 1815. The year 1815, you heard me right, around the month of October, that's the first recorded history of hockey being played in Canada. This was in Halifax, Nova Scotia. According to George and Daryl Fostes, they wrote a book called Black Ice. I guess they also helped put together an ESPN special on it. Hockey and black hockey and black history, they both parallel each other around that time. There is no history of hockey by whites or blacks before 1815. It started with black players from 4 families at that time during the fall of 1815. The Corney family, the Williams family, the Monroes, and the Leals, L-E-A-L-E. Through most of the black Canadian history, this has all been destroyed, okay? Or lost, probably both. But this is the earliest. 1850 was the earliest history of hockey, and it was all black. Amazingly enough. This is something that needs to be broadcast repeatedly, because what you have today is a misinformation machine that's making young white kids think that that's their sport, that's all a white sport. And oddly enough, you got basketball. Basketball's invented by a white man, but it's played mostly by African American players. Game of hockey started by escaped slaves. Those slaves were they became more than just hockey players. They became activists, very bold, very aggressive activists. They not only invented the sport of hockey, they revolutionized it. From every position, the slap shot, everything, the style of skating, all of that. That was us. So we're going to cover this again in the future. But in the meantime, I just wanted to put that out there.